Deadpool Negative back with another comic review. Comics I'm not really sure I should have bought, but I bought them anyway. I pretty much, like most people, like who are saying, I gave up on the Zeb Wells run around issue 28 of the current Zeb Wells run. I mean, it's the run that everybody seems to hate, but it's also Marvel best-selling comics, so maybe I'm the problem. But anyway, I bought a bunch of issues in the $2 bin, and again, I found it interesting, and also like us, one of the things Zeb Wells is very famous for in this run is his weird, bizarre, Byzantine way of Peter and Mary Jane breaking up, which was obviously editorially screwed with a lot. Something happened there, or the fact that Miss Marvel was a supporting character, never got to do anything, and then they killed her off. Um, I don't. I don't know what's going on in the Spider office, but like about 4 years ago, the hype for issue 50 was the return of the Green Goblin. And now the hype for issue 50 is the return of the Green Goblin. And Nick Lowe was the editor then and he's the editor now. Like, I don't understand it. I don't understand why this like it's not the worst comic in the world. I mean, it's not Bendis or Bendis Avengers or Jason Aaron Avengers bad, but it's certainly this run is certainly deeply confused. But for whatever reason I decided to buy the most recent issues, 45 and 46. Drawn by Carmen Carnero, who's an artist that it's frustrating because I don't know if it's a he or she, they write in it, they draw in a pretty, I like to joke it's Spider-Man, the adequately drawn Spider-Man. They're not dynamic, they're not exciting, but they are competent and they can tell a story well enough. But for Marvel's biggest selling book, you'd really think they'd be something more, I'll give an example, it's just, they know how to do it. It just doesn't feel like it pops at all. I might be the only one. Maybe it's the coloring, but let's start with the issue 45. Issue 45, Peter got the cure for Krakoan crazy, I think. Oh yeah, he helped develop the cure to Krakoan crazy. And as we all know, in the Spider-Man annual, Anna, Mary Jane's aunt, went crazy with the Krakoan, whatever. She's crazy. She's locked up in Ravencroft for some bizarre reason. And Spider-Man injects her with it. And the weird thing is, she wants to stay because, Spider-Man offers to break her out, but she agrees to stay because she did something wrong. I have a debt to society. I have to pay it. Does serve crazy? It's my responsibility. Spider sense, and that's what I sound like. One of the weird things about Peter Wells' run is he seems to be really fixated on funny moments. I mean, he's a comedy writer. He wasn't like this back when he was writing the title during the Brand New Day era. His stories didn't seem so fixated on the joke, but man, he loves the joke. And again, it's weird. There's this really nice moment between Peter and Norman Osborn where Peter wants to quit and Norman won't let him, wants to keep him on salary, And now, Norman Osborn being a nice guy was not Wells' idea. It was Nick Spencer's idea. It was sort of interesting when it happened. But here's the problem. Norman Osborn is responsible for literally tens of thousands of deaths. Now, if they had just did a story where he went to trial, where they're declared, it's just so weird to for the series to have been building up Norman as a nice guy, and I did enjoy the Gold Goblin miniseries. I did think that was well done, but I want Norman Osborn to answer for his crimes. Actually, I don't. It's not that I don't want Norman Osborn. I don't want Norman Osborn for a while. I don't. I think it's very weird that a mass murderer is one of Spider-Man's best buddies and such an important supporting character, the Spider-Man mythos. I mean, he hasn't even shown up in the MCU movie. There's not even equivalent in the MCU. They had to bring in Willem Willem Dafoe's got. I don't get it. I don't get why the Nick Lowe office is so fixated on Norman Osborn being a regular cast member. I mean, he got along. The Spider-Man franchise got along without Norman Osborn for 20 years. And Bendis isn't around, so he can't write him into everything like he wanted to, because he's making some bizarre point about how our leaders are all horrible. You don't have to have Norman Osborn in your comic, in your Spider-Man comic. You can have, I don't know, Dr. Octopus, Electro, Kraven, who all show up in these 2 issues. I just don't understand the need to have this great guy Norman Osborn around, especially when you said you're building toward the return of the Green Goblin, which you just did that 4 years ago. Like, Marvel, it's so weird that Marvel has so little respect for its readers' memories, yet it wants the reader to buy everything. Anyway, we also deal with Jackpot and Mary Jane. I'm not happy about that, but it's not terrible. I mean, tried to read some of the Celeste Bronfman stuff, and it wasn't great. It wasn't terrible, but again, Celeste Bronfman is one of those writers who can do character moments, but she can't do anything else. But anyway, this issue is not exactly bad. It's kind of interesting. There's a part where it's kind of amusing where like Mary Jane's late. Peter goes to Ravencroft in his Spider-Man costume because he's going to meet MJ there, but MJ shows up in her costume too, and she's like, "I'm out fighting crime. Saw an argument on way. I thought I should break it up. Might have been overkill." It's kind of cute, but there's like one of the characters Wells did a good job with back before, even when he first started writing Spider-Man, which is over 20 years ago now, was the Sandman. And there's a nice character moment between Peter and the Sandman where like the as I believe he established that William Baker and Flint Marko are different personalities, and he's still inside me. He wants out, wants to do bad things. You saw, basically William Baker turned himself in, but Flint Marko wants to come back, and he lets him know that look, Spider-Man is coming. I mean, okay, there's nothing particularly stupid in these books, nothing great, but it was solid enough. Like, I don't know, I cracked a smile, but it wasn't kind of stupid. But let's get to the next issue where things take a turn. So the Sinister Six now with a live Electro. I don't know when that happened. They're going to get Sandman to pull off their whatever. I mean, we have Mysterio, Vulture, Dr. Octopus. I don't know how the Max Dillon Electro came back. I'm not sure I exactly care. So it's Mysterio, Vulture, Kraven, Dr. Octopus, Max Dillon Electro. They're going to get the Sandman. Of course, they're going to try and get the Green Goblin. Although, like, let's be honest, why they want the Green Goblin is kind of stupid. But, they could also get the Hobgoblin or any other Spider-Man villain. But, of course, they're going to do that. Whatever. So we have this bizarre scene where Michelle, who is not Michelle Gonzalez, but just as bipolar and mean, shows up and yells at him for standing up for a date. Called him, and Peter says, "I didn't call you. I don't know what's going on." And the woman's automatic assumption is, "You're a psychopath." Like, no. What I've always hated about comic creators is so many of them make jokes about how we the fans are always afraid of strong women, and then they write relationship with bipolar women as normative. And I know something just came out recently about Wells' personal life that's kind of been spreading. I don't want to go into it here, but too much into it here. But he went through a divorce. His wife is Heidi Gardner, and it kind of just came out in like past week that she did Saturday Night Live actress Heidi Gardner, and while she said she was interviewed on a podcast back in January where she said like she had just gone through a painful divorce, and it had been happening for many years. So whatever was going on was likely starting during the events of Wells' return run in 2022. And so and just the way relationships play out in this It's not great. It's not bad. It just feels a little. I don't know what to say. It's like this thing with the Michelle character. It's weird. I mean, like people like that aren't normative. They're not. And they go, but so basically, Mary Jane and Peter go back to Ravencroft because they're worried about Sandman being kidnapped. And Peter's like, I want you to be happy. MJ's like, I want you to be happening. I know I will be, I think. Be honest, it's taking longer than I thought it would. Moving on. And I did realize it didn't look that way to you, but it took me a really long time too, for what it's worth. Again, the convoluted story behind it. No Paul in this issue. We're fighting crime. It's your life too now. Like, I don't know. Like, I kind of like the idea of Jackpot and the powers, and it's neat, but I get the way, like, the Bronfman's not a particularly strong writer, and this whole story, like, she teams with the Black Cat, like, whatever. It's like, I mean, it annoys your boy Zach, and that's important, but still. So here's something that's entertaining. It's like basically now that Anna's normal, everybody in the Ravencroft Institute likes her, and she's nice to everyone, and it's a good joke. It's a good joke. I mean, Electra shows up to break him out, and it's kind of neat because they all starts doing bad things. We're gonna break out, but like basically she tries to stop Electro from taking Sandman. Anna, I'm sorry, I should have been clear. Anna is still in the Ravencroft Institute. She's gonna get out, but like, the bad guys are gonna break out, but they come back for Anna because she's so nice. She's here of Ravencroft, whatever that means. And then it gives Spider-Man and Jackpot enough time to distract Electro. And there's a really funny gag where Electro. It's actually, the more I'm looking at, the more I like the issue. But then it builds to a pretty decent twist, but it also a twist that makes Spider-Man look stupid and incompetent, as usual. It's always like that Steve Wacker quote. I'm comfortable with the Spider-Man that makes mistakes, and one of the central events of his Spider-Man run was the lizard eating his own child on panel, and then Matty Franklin's bones being licked. A Spider-Man that makes mistakes, but also it fails to save children. Great guy, that Steve Wacker. But it's kind of neat. It's kind of neat. But there are just all these weird quirks, there's like Peter and Mary Jane, like, I guess we shouldn't interact, like, just write her out of the series. Write her out of the series for a while. Just do that. Have her film career take off. It will not hurt the world. It's good, like, we make a good team. That's a good reason to do it in. And maybe or have Paul knock her up. Don't put her in the book. Like, this endless baiting is never going to end. You guys did this to yourselves, whether you like it or not. It's weird. I like this, but there are also these weird, like, where Whirlwind. She mentioned she befriended Whirlwind, and in one issue, not in this issue, but in the previous issue, like, Anna mentioned she befriended Whirlwind, and he's like, he's not a nice man. I mean, yeah, he's not. But not everyone had the same opportunities you did, Peter, and I guess, like, it's such a bizarre statement. Like, opportunities isn't the right word for it. It's not the support system like Aunt May and Uncle Ben. But it just, I don't know, like, I read these issues. I didn't really like 45. I liked 46. But all these weird things that trip it up, and just the feeling that, like, I'm just being jerked around, like, and yet this is one of Marvel's still biggest selling titles, and nobody likes it. I mean, Nick Lowe, I joke, Nick Lowe retire, bitch, and I mean it, but the sales figures are there, so I don't know what to say. I actually don't know where I was going with any of this. Like, I was just going to review the issues, and there's good stuff and there's bad stuff. It's just the bad stuff really stands out, and the good stuff isn't good enough. That's the best characterization I have of the Wells run at this point. Anyway, thanks for watching. Like and subscribe, etc., etc., and I will talk to you later. And once again, these were purchased at Comic Universe in Folsom, PA. Talk to you later.